Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is JB. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. Welcome to another exciting edition of the EntreMusician. This is the space where we concentrate on the mindset, the discipline, and the focus of the EntreMusician. In today's episode, no exception. In fact, today I'm going to be much more personal with you as I usually am. I'm always speaking from my heart, but today I go behind the curtain and really open up my chest and share my heart with you, because today, as I am filming this Thursday, April 8th, 2021, today I am celebrating 26 years of a wonderful marriage to my beautiful Lori. And we've been celebrating all week because we didn't go anywhere. We didn't plan to go anywhere and spend some time due to our schedules, but we've been catching a dinner here, a coffee there, a breakfast here, and just time really at the end of the day, reminiscing, going over our photos. The girls are out of the house and grown. We're empty nesters, so going over the videos and whatnot, and just really celebrating what God has done in our marriage, in our home, in our family, and it's been wonderful. So I'm going to kind of open up my chest to you, because as I'm thinking through our time together, the ups and the downs, the joyful time, the tearful times, I'm thinking, there are some things here that I can glean from our marriage that I can absolutely share with you as an EntreMusician, which could help you if you have not already reached the point of pivoting to a full-time position as an EntreMusician, or perhaps, how could I better put this? If you're really not as focused as you should be, what I want to do is just share 5 things that I've learned from my marriage that you can apply today and begin employing to moving the needle and scaling as an EntreMusician. At first, I was thinking, easily there could be 26 because of 26 years of marriage. There could be 7, there could be 12. I can make this video an hour long, but I wanted to capture 5 things. If there were 5 most important components of what I've learned being married to this woman, being a husband and a father, and growing as a man in this relationship, I could take these things and I can apply them in several ways. I was going to say many ways, several ways for sure. I have applied them because, first and foremost, I had laid my drumsticks down when I met Lori back in, when was it, June? Our first date was June 1st, 1994. I had met her a couple weeks before, but knew that I needed to move quick and really, just get this girl into my life as soon as I could. So it was Wednesday, June 1st, after a Bible study, and I invited her out, and didn't really talk much on that Thursday. On Friday, those of you who could remember this, you old heads like myself, on Friday, June 3rd, I took her to see Poetic Justice with Tupac and Janet Jackson. And so we had dinner after that, and then kind of a silence on Saturday, and then Sunday, after church on Sunday, it was like after we went to dinner, then it was all over. I just needed to have her. In fact, let me do this real quick. Let me just share a couple of pictures with you, just so you can see. This is from our wedding book. Now, on my monitor, her dress looks a little grainy. I don't know if that's because of the green screen or not, but just wanted to give you, a little bit of insight as to, my baby and I. This is my beautiful Lori. And again, celebrating 26 years, just as happy as I could possibly be, happy as a clam. And this is one of the most recent photos of us, and just enjoying and doing life together. And I'm so very, 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 very grateful to the Lord and to Lori. So I've learned some things, and so I want to share 5 specific things with you that I've learned that I'm sharing with you so that you can employ them as an EntreMusician, move the needle forward yourself. And I was thinking back into like how these same principles has helped me as a musician, and hopefully Lori can tell you herself, being a better husband to her and father to our children. So number 1 is probably the most obvious to you, and that is absolute commitment. I mean, absolutely being committed to what we wanted to do, having a mission and a vision and a one-track mind on what we wanted to accomplish. Not to say that there were no failures. There were definitely a lot of disagreements along the way. There were many times where we didn't see eye to eye, but we had this absolute commitment to our marriage that we were going to last. That in the midst of a culture with 50-50 divorce rates, 50%, we were not going to be that couple. Another thing that was very personal to us in our marriage is the fact that as we grew up, we both come from broken homes, broken marriages, broken family dynamics. And we absolutely did not want that for ourselves. We did not want that for our children. In fact, many of you know I have talked about this in previous videos. I came into our marriage with a child. I became a father at 17. I was 30 when Lori and I married. My daughter, Tajay, was 11. And one of the first things that Lori said after our engagement concerning Tajay was, hey, I don't want to do the stepmom thing. Let's just get custody of Tajay and raise her in a home where she could feel what we want. And it could be a balanced home, and it wasn't a perfect home, but it could be a balanced home, of course. And she can feel that love from both a mother and a father in the home. And so that's what we did. And I love my wife for that. And so it was absolute commitment from day one of the type of marriage that we wanted to have. And as an EntreMusician, that's what you're going to need. You're going to need a one-track mind. You're going to say, I'm going to do this. This is my calling. This is why I'm on this planet, and nothing is going to hinder me. Nothing is going to have my attention as much as what is put before me as far as my creativity, my art, my work, my life's purpose, my life's mission is concerned. And we can be distracted. I mean, if we don't watch ourselves, we can have that peripheral distraction because there's so many different things that pull our attention in trying to make our life's work a reality. Going back to marriage, I can say that through these 26 years, and again, just opening my heart, being absolutely transparent. I mean, there were those moments in our marriage where I was thinking about walking away. I was thinking, wow, this is really, too much. There were some things and components and things that were going wrong. And I'll talk about those things just shortly, to you, just slightly, to give you that perspective. But with respect to that, traveling with my band Sound Doctrine, especially during the formative years of the band, which was also the formative years of our marriage. I mean, there were many times where I was in hotel rooms. I was, in clubs that were filled with, women who, the temptation could have taken a turn. That's just me being honest with you. They were those peripheral distractions. However, my commitment to home, my commitment to my wife, my commitment to my family absolutely was the thing that kept me on point. In fact, I used to have 2 parts of Sound Doctrine. I think I talked about this before. One was the Ohio part when we, traveled in Ohio, and then when we did DC, Baltimore, Delaware, Virginia, there was another section of Sound Doctrine that would be the Sound Doctrine band. And Trendle Thomas, God bless him, Trendle, keyboard player, wonderful dude. He would always set up an 8x10 picture of his family on his Fender Rhodes. He still carried around the 76 weighted Fender Rhodes, and he would put the picture up, and we would run interference for each other. At that time, all of us in the band were married except for Keith McKelley, the saxophone player. And so we would run interference so that, again, there would not be that distraction. And that's how committed we were to making our marriages work, to making sure that our marriages are strong, or were strong, I should say, during that time, and just really focused on that end goal. And so that's the first thing that I know that you can employ as an EntreMusician, coming straight up out of my marriage, which is why I'm so much in love, because our love has grown stronger. Our friendship has grown stronger. I can remember people saying, and when we first got married, 1-2 years into it, I would hear older couples say, "Oh, I'm more in love with her than I've ever been." Or, "I love my husband so much. I love him much more than when he proposed to me." And, I didn't understand that dynamic, but now I do. I am more in love with my wife because of our commitment. I am more deeply in touch with who she is as my woman, as my friend. And again, you can employ that right into your career, into your life's work as an EntreMusician when you're absolutely committed to it. As the months roll ahead, as the years go by, you can look at what you've built by God's grace and what you've created and what you've honed, and you can say, this is where I am, and I'm settled because of this, and I'm growing, and I'm developing, and I'm maturing, and I'm watching this blossom because of the love and care and the commitment that I made to it. That's number one. Number two is courageous adventure. That's what marriage teaches you right off the gate. I mean, many people get married in their early 20s. Lori and I, we didn't get married late 20s. For her, 30. I was 30 when April 8th of 1995. And, it's interesting because the two of us, having been in some relationships, some serious relationships previously, getting married and sealing the deal and taking the oath and making the covenant to absolute commitment, it really reveals some things about you that you don't know. In marriage, you have to get out of your comfort zone. In marriage, your partner is revealing, it's like a mirror. She reveals to me things that I don't know about myself. She reveals blind spots for me. And, it's really interesting because in childhood, in your formative years, or in previous relationships or situations, you may be at a point where you're like, well, this is how I am. This is what it is. This is how I respond. And you can almost be en route, but you have to be courageous enough to be vulnerable and transparent. That takes a lot of courage. And to go down this adventure together, because everything you do and every decision that you make is not about you. It's about us. And so especially if you are an EntreMusician who is in a band, whether you are the leader of the band or not, if you're working on a project, even as a solo artist, and you have this team, it really is about us. It's not just about you. And you have to be courageous enough and transparent enough to lay down and to sacrifice, what your first impressions may be, to hear the opinion, to hear the advice and the counsel of others, so that you are better, so that it is an adventure. It's not just a job. It's not just something that you get paid for doing, but something that you enjoy, something that is bringing the greater good for all who either listen to your music, who work with you behind the scenes, anyone who is on your team and on your track, making sure that this work absolutely happens. it becomes about us. And that's the one thing that I've learned. I've learned how to walk this adventure, because I can tell you, I can be a stick in the mud sometimes. I grew up like that. I know many of you who know me personally are going, yeah, at least he's telling the truth. I could be so dogmatic about a particular issue, and it takes my Lori, we're like polar opposites, but it really takes her to say, well, Jerry, this is what we need to be doing. Have you considered A, B, and C? Nah, because I've been on D, E, and F, and that's kind of where I'm standing. But the beauty of the adventure and laying down my life for this woman, has really helped it to just grow and prosper and blossom. And I really am. I'm in a great, healthy relationship. And I do want that for you, and especially you as an EntreMusician, where we dialogue on that particular platform so that you can have that health with your team or with your band for your vision so it can grow. It's courageous adventure. The third thing is really awesome. I could spend a year on this, but I won't. But to be concise yet thorough, it is proper understanding. There's a scripture in Proverbs that says, above all else, above knowledge, above education, above any type of stature, get an understanding. If you have an understanding with your counterpart, with your teammate, in my case, again, drawing from my marriage, with my wife, because you won't always see eye to eye. You have to have an understanding. There have been some intense conversations, if I can put it that way, intense dialogues between us because we haven't seen things the same way. Again, different experience as she was growing up, how she was raised, different mindset, and how, my thoughts and my experiences were formulated to make us who we are. And then we have to come together. We need it early on, and we need it often to have those conversations that brought us into a level of understanding, because I just didn't get her. I mean, there were times I love her, and I'm talking about, hey, this is year 12, this is year 17, this is year 21, where it's just like, wow, just when you think you know a person, but because a person is always growing and always developing and always maturing and changing, and things that they used to think, 10 years later, they're not thinking that way anymore. I mean, it's all of us. So we have to always employ that conversation of understanding. And again, as an EntreMusician, that's right. Again, especially if you're in a band. See, that's been my dynamic. I've only been a solo artist for one particular project, but in dealing with bands since junior high school, and beyond that, again, until I quit music for a while, it was always that dynamic of, the guitar player and the keyboard player don't get along for some reason, or the bass player and the saxophone. It's always something, simply because there was no degree of understanding. We were just kind of like, in many of those dynamics, we were just, let's get it done. Okay, the show is happening. We're going to rehearse. We're going to put our problems, to the side, or the issues that we have with each other, which could be very deep, real issues. But, just for the sake of the band, just for the sake of this gig or this recording, we're just going to go through it. And you know what? That's not healthy. What's healthy is sitting down and having the conversation, sitting down and saying, I absolutely disagree. I do not receive that point of view, and here's why. But while you're doing that, being willing to listen. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand before being understood. Are you open to the fact that this person absolutely, completely disagrees with you, just like you do with them? And are you willing to hear them out and to hear their heart Even if at the end of the conversation you still disagree, but they have felt heard. They've had that, what again Dr. Stephen Covey calls that psychological air, that they've been heard, and that is the basis of understanding. And so my wife and I, Lori, one of the things that we do when we are feeling one of those intense conversations coming on, quite often we'll go take a walk with each other, or we'll go to a coffee shop. We'll go to a neutral place. I mean, I can count the times on these two fingers of when we've sat in our bedroom or in our home and we've actually, butted heads because we just didn't want the environment of our home to have that aura about it. But we've gone places like the park. We stay around a beautiful park, Mill Creek Park, and we'll walk in the park and we'll talk and we'll stop, and there may be a little bit of finger pointing. You understand what I'm saying? We'll go to a coffee shop. We'll have our coffee and we'll lay out the dynamics of why we disagree with the other on that particular point. And it has really, as we look back in the rearview mirror, we were just talking about this the other night, it has really allowed us to just grow, to see, and even in many instances, appreciate the differences that we both bring to the table. So understanding is a big one. Again, I could say more about that third component, but I won't. I mean, I know that you get it. You have to get an understanding as an EntreMusician to move forward. And the fourth one is really just like it, and that is forgiveness. Wow, that's being willing to hit that reset button over and over and over and over and over again. You are really asking for mercy, and you are asking for grace, and you are asking that this person forgives you of your flaws, of your shortcomings, of your faults. And you should be willing, absolutely willing to do the same. To bring Father God into this. When I ask him for forgiveness for my shortcomings, for my failures, based on his word in 1 John 1:9, I ask him, based on your word, you said that if I come and I confess my sins, that you are faithful and just to forgive me and to cleanse me from all unrighteousness. And I really, truly believe that word is true. That's on the basis of my faith. With respect to those who ask forgiveness of me, then do I hold a grudge? Do I tuck something away in my file cabinet? Do I bring this to mind, every time that I see them? Now, there could be some gulfs that are deep. In fact, I had a mentor once who shared with us, that there is that acknowledgement of forgiveness. I forgive you, okay? And then secondly, there is that process of forgiveness, okay? But third, I can't even put my finger there. Third, there is walking in that state of forgiveness. So forgiveness is a process depending on how deeply you have hurt, but you should absolutely forgive those, we said in the Lord's Prayer, who trespass against you, those who have harmed you. Even if you have to forgive them from away and say, okay, I've chosen to forgive them. It doesn't mean that you go on vacation with them. It doesn't mean that, you continue to walk together, that everything is going to be the same, but in your heart, in your spirit, in your mind, in your person, you've said, I've chosen to forgive them, to not let what they've done to me cause there to be this hatred and this evil in my heart toward them. I wish them well. You understand? Now, in a marriage, obviously, there's a different context because we do want to continue our relationship because of number one, absolute commitment. So I'm willing to hit that reset button again. I'm willing to hit it again and again. The Apostle Peter asked Jesus, hey, when my brother sins against me, how many times should I forgive him? 7 times? 7 times 7? And Jesus told him 70 times 7. The context was, this component of forgiveness is so great that if he asks you or she asks you and she really means it and really seeks your forgiveness, then you forgive that person. And so as an EntreMusician, there are many times many opportunities, really, for things to get awry, for things to go astray, right? For things to just be like, yo, what's up? But if they ask you for forgiveness, be the bigger, better person and forgive them. Because when you screw up, you're going to want and need forgiveness as well. So, that's the fourth thing, forgiveness. Number 5, and the final thing that we'll talk about here in this context is building a legacy, because that's something that, again, it counters back. It's almost cyclical. It goes back to number 1 with absolute commitment. If we want to build a legacy, we can't be thinking about just today. Okay, and that goes in our emotional state of our marriage, the spiritual state of our marriage, the physical state of our marriage as we're building a family, and then the financial state of our marriage as well, is to make sure that we're putting away for the future, that we have something when our retirement age, I'm just using that, musicians never retire, word up, but in that age of where we're not doing whatever we would normally do to bring in income, that we have a nest egg. Now, as I've shared before in some previous videos, we did not come to that point because we entered the marriage with a poverty mindset. And so we really had to break our brains and how important that was to build a legacy and to build something that will sustain us during the down times, right? And so that's something that you learn and need to employ, obviously, as an EntreMusician. What are you going to do for the downtime? How do you build a legacy? It's not just this project, but it's this project's impact on 5 years from now. And really, that's how I look at music. That's how I look at the songs that I write. That's how I look at collaborations and productions. It's just not just doing this. And often as musicians, as creatives, we're so focused on what's in front of us. And that's a good thing. Pour your heart into that thing, but think about the impact for the future, which is why there are names like Stevie Wonder or Quincy Jones or the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, or back early on as they were forming their bands, as they were honing their craft, they were thinking about the impact that 20 years from now, how important will this song be? Bob Dylan, Joan Baez. 20 years from now, Aretha Franklin, God rest her soul, but her voice, her music has made an impact. Smokey Robinson, I can go on. You understand what I'm saying? Look at your career, look at your life's work as something that's going to impact the future long after you're gone. Your memory and the memory of your music and the legacy that your music brings to the table should carry on and should impact that future generation. Something that Lori and I talk about all the time is when we're praying for our daughters and we're praying for future husbands. None of them are married yet, but praying for that and praying into our grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren after them, after we're long off the scene. What we would like to happen is for them to be looking through the photo albums of their ancestry and saying, wow, we have this because Jerry met Lori and they got together and they built this legacy. That's what I'm talking about, that type of impact. And I know that you can do it. So I wanted to share these 5 things with you just to ask you to think about them, consider them. They're straight out of our marriage playbook. And, I really have, when I thought about this video, I really have been thinking along the lines of, wow, these are components. They are strong pillars in our marriage and how God has allowed us to grow. And I know that those who are EntreMusicians like I can really put these things into place and think about building their mindset and their discipline and their focus on making this happen. Now, before I leave, I just want to say, if you can recall in the 5 things, the absolute commitment, the courageous adventure, the understanding, the forgiveness, and the building a legacy, I didn't really mention the word love as a component. Number 1, I thought that would be a given, But number two is that love is just not this organic feeling. It's just not this emotion. And it's interesting again because the divorce rate at this moment is 50-50. 50% divorce. Why? Because love to many people is about feeling. No, love is incredibly intentional. You choose to love that person. You dig it? You choose to love that person through disappointment, through heartache, through hurt, through grief. Again, employing forgiveness and understanding. But every day and every hour of the day, you are very persistent about loving them unconditionally. Yes, I see that flaw. Yes, I see that blind spot. Yes, I don't disagree, but I love you and I choose to love you. And so love kind of wraps around all of those 5 components so that it envelops the relationship. Obviously, you love what you do, okay? But obviously, there are going to be some times where you, again, like I said, may want to walk away. You don't have the capacity to go through the obstacles that present themselves to turn them into opportunities. But if you love it and if you choose to love it, you can and you will overcome. You will succeed. And that's my heart to you as one EntreMusician to another. Love what you do. Choose to love it. Employ the components that I've shared with you. Thank you for allowing me to open up my heart to you. I would ask that if you're watching this and you dug what we had to share here, that you would obviously subscribe to it. You can come to the EntreMusician.com. Okay, you can click the backstage pass and you can actually become a member of the EntreMusician. Now, there are a couple tiers that we have depending on how much exclusivity you want, how much exclusive content, how much networking and collaboration. All of these things are absolutely in place. But the entry level is just $1 a month. Just $1 a month gets you exclusive content that we don't show here to the public. Is us. It gets you into a Facebook group, and it gets you into a conversation with others that, are doing the same things and just growing and learning together and growing together. Why? Because I say it all the time. My name is Jerry B. I am the EntreMusician, but you know what? So are you. Come on and let's join the vision. Let's continue to grow this community. We will see you next time. We're looking forward to it. God bless, my friend.